Hi folks, it's Dr. Rob CYWES. I'm the Carb Addiction Doc, and before we get into today's video, I just want to say thank you so much to folks that throw us a few dollars at our Patreon account and especially at our PayPal account. The addresses are in the show notes below, but that keeps this channel free. You can help us by subscribing to this channel and by liking the videos or even leaving a comment. And if you see some of our videos popping up on your feed, click on it for a few seconds. Thanks so much, and now to today's video. Hi folks, Dr. Rob CYWES. I am the Carb Addiction Doc, and today we're going to have another discussion of do's and don'ts, in my opinion, for a healthy carnivore diet. Because nobody out there, or very few people out there, understand how to structure a carnivore diet that is uniquely applicable to you as an individual. The best advice you're going to get out there is generic advice for everybody that doesn't necessarily apply to you as an individual. So today we're going to talk about macronutrient sources. So the first comment, and the reason why this is important as a separate subject, is because a large part of the narrative out there is protein, 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 which on a carnivore diet is the most harmful thing that somebody in our space can tell you. Number one, never ever measure or have an idea of how much protein you should eat. It should fluctuate on a daily basis, and it should fluctuate per meal. Some meals should be micronutrient dense, some meals should be fat dense, and some can be protein dense. But remember that overeating protein has huge harmful liability to you and causes or promotes certain health issues or sustains certain health issues that you don't want, because it keeps you in a glucose dominant phase, particularly when you don't have insulin to adequately regulate that glucagon, because a carnivore diet is insulin suppressive. So please understand that too much protein is harmful, and you will never, ever, ever on a carnivore diet undereat protein, because nothing that you eat on a carnivore diet, no animal product that you eat, is devoid of protein, and we don't want you sucking on sticks of butter. So there's always enough protein. And then the final comment about protein, just in this preamble, is that the largest source of protein is recycled protein inside your body. The body is continuously turning over protein. So all you're doing when you're eating protein is supplementing the small amount where your body actually loses that protein. And the greatest source of protein loss on a carnivore diet is the small amount of protein that is prioritized toward the creation of sugar. So if you're on a carnivore diet, the overwhelming majority of blood sugar, which has to be at a certain level, typically about 4 to 4.5 grams in 5 liters of blood, very small amount, but there's a turnover element, but a very important fraction of the protein you eat is there through the process of gluconeogenesis under the influence of glucagon to be turned into sugar by the liver, and a small amount of ketones from protein as well. Yes, some proteins become ketones. So some of the protein becomes sugar. That is the primary loss you want to account for. Some of it is used up as protein. Some of it is stored as muscles. You've got albumin, you've got globulin, you've got hormones, you've got enzymes. Those are some of the utilizations of protein, but you need a very small fraction to make up the loss. Okay? And you'll always get enough in your protein diet. So one of the key things that we look at on blood work, we look at BUN, we look at creatinine, we look at uric acid, which is an independent inflammatory marker, and uric acid is a protein waste number. We look at triglycerides, we look at blood sugar, we look at A1C to determine two things, to determine if you're overeating protein or if you're not producing enough insulin to supply that sugar. All of those metrics are very important in terms of regulating and managing your carnivore diet. And practices like ours and the folks that are being trained in a carnivore-based diet from a medical perspective in this training module are able to help you with that at an individual level by reading your blood work. The other day, I was hanging out with a colleague of mine, Dom D'Agostino. A lot of you know him. He's a researcher here in Florida, specifically in the keto space. We're at a conference and we were chatting about a few things, and he's very big into exogenous ketones for a variety of different problems, cancer, getting into ketosis, as am I. So I'm a big supporter of the use of exogenous ketones from time to time to push you over a slight edge. But sometimes the ketone IQ that we use gives you a blip but it doesn't keep you there. However, this is an excellent product. But here's the pearl from Dom. Dom said, take your ketone IQ and take it with some MCT oil. Take it with some short chain or medium chain fatty acids. Ketones are ultra short chain fatty acids. The MCT oil is medium chain. They all go to your liver. And it just made all the sense in the world. So what I tend to do, because the ketone IQ tastes kind of badly, is I'll swallow a shot of this and then I'll hit my coffee. And if I put some MCT oil in my coffee, I get double the bump, and the MCT oil is there for a longer period of time, keeping me in a ketogenic fat burning mode, which is excellent for autophagy, cellular repair, and also suppressing appetite. So a little pearl, again, stolen from Dom, shared on this space. Now, what are the sources of protein in your diet? All animal products have protein. There is a variety, but remember, all animal products, when you're eating the muscles of animals, have all 20 or 21 of the important amino acids in them. So the human body is able to take the majority of proteins, to take one protein like alanine and turn it into other amino acids. So the liver will interconvert and produce other amino acids, but there are a set, 9, I believe it's 9, essential amino acids that the human body cannot produce. And the word essential means you have to consume them in your diet because the liver cannot interchange them. Important. And the only product that provides all 20, 21 amino acids, the essential and the non-essential, in the right ratio is the meat, the flesh of animals. So that is a foundation of a carnivore diet. Eat that meat, but protect the meat with fat. Adequate fat in your diet allows the amount of protein you're eating mostly to be triaged towards protein because your requirement for glucose conversion is low. There's no demand on sugar as a primary energy source because the fat is the primary energy source. Okay? So when it comes to eating protein, what are the sources? Well, for most people on planet Earth, it's beef. And beef is an excellent source of protein. At first, when you're first designing a carnivore diet, you want a much higher fat to protein ratio because you're trying to deal and get rid of insulin resistance. Once you are insulin sensitive or possibly even insulin suppressed, you may want to lower the fat content of that cow and increase the protein percentage. We can measure and help you with that. How do you do that without measuring it? Well, if at first you buy pasture-raised grain-finished cows or grain-finished animals, where it's pork or anything else, those animals are going to be richer in fat. And yes, it's still a healthy form of fat, okay? Because animal fat is animal fat. It doesn't vary that much in terms of consistency, whether the source was grains or sugar. The animal's suffering other diseases if it eats the grains, but that's not your worry. So early on, eat the higher fat beef. Down the road, eat more of the pasture-raised, pasture-finished, leaner, but still fat-containing meat. The healthiest, and this is for my non-American people because most Americans don't like this or can't source it, but the healthiest form of red meat, source of red meat, by means of most commonly being purely pasture-raised, is lamb and goat. Lamb and goat. And people all over the world eat lamb and goat, as well as camels and a few other animal products, musk ox, whatever that may be, varying in different parts of the world. Those animals, when you're eating their flesh, is some of the healthiest protein-fat ratio that you can get. But lamb as a source of meat is an excellent source. If you don't like it, don't eat it, but try to include it in your food diversity. And if you can, buy it in bulk, store it in the fridge, and then just think of it. If you don't like it, never eat it. The next one is pork and bacon. And these are excellent sources of meat. Often pork, though, is a little bit on the leaner side. So you can add bacon, you can add pork belly, you can add bacon fat to that pork. But pork is an excellent source of meat. It's a whiter meat. It's a slightly leaner meat. But it is an excellent source of meat for many people. Obviously, people with religious issues or whatever it means, or allergies to pork, Stay away from it, but don't let anybody on the internet tell you it's so good or so bad for you, okay? The next one is chicken and poultry. So chicken, turkey, and wild fowl. Excellent source of animal product and an excellent source of fat. If you, for example, eat the chicken wings or the chicken thighs, try to eat the darker meat rather than the white meat, but chicken is an excellent source of protein and fat. A lot of people on a carnivore diet minimize their poultry, which is absolutely fine, but don't exclude it. And remember, the bizarre part is most people on a carnivore diet eat a ton of eggs, but they won't eat chicken. Okay, just process that little baby there. The next one, which I think is of all the animal products, the healthiest source of food on a carnivore diet is fish and seafood. Wild caught fish and seafood. Probably the healthiest source of animal product we can eat. Now, if you hate fish, if you hate seafood, if you've got an allergy, stay away from it. But a lot of people don't think of fish. So what we've done intentionally is two things. What I've done intentionally is two things. As a family, typically Tuesday nights are our fish nights. And we'll have a source of fish, and then we may add some sardines or oysters or fish roe to that. But we have a fish night on Tuesday nights and maybe another night. And sometimes fish will be there as a leftover. We almost always have wild-caught smoked salmon in the fridge as a condiment to our food or as a source of fish itself. And then if ever I eat out, I will prioritize for myself, because we don't do it enough at home, and I like this. Again, it's a likability. My wife doesn't like this, but I do. We will prioritize eating fish when we go out. I can make a darn good ribeye steak, so I don't need to go to a steakhouse to eat their steak that I can make pretty well. But fish we often don't source, we don't get it, as long as I know the quality of the fish is good. And remember that about 20% of the fish that we eat is not the fish they advertise on the menu. So they may say it's mahi, but it's actually made from tilapia or something like that. Genetic testing has been done. So make sure you go to a place where you can trust the source of fish that they're serving you. But those are strategies to increase your fish. And always have a source of fat with that. But those, from a macronutrient perspective, those are some of the ideas you get. If you don't like something, stay away from it. But to intentionally do a pure lion diet, that's fine as a brief strategy to make a correction, but it's not okay long term. The broader your diversity of macronutrient sources that you get, the healthier. Okay? The thing that should override this long-term as a strategy is the likability, with at first eating a higher fraction of fat and a lower fraction of protein. Down the road, maintaining the lower fraction of protein, but eating a higher percentage of protein with a smaller volume and maybe a little bit less fat. And we can check that on the numbers. I am the Carb Addiction Doc. This is the way we do macros in a sustainable way.